All right, we are recording. We're so official.
Awesome.
Well, hey, so I wanted to just thank you guys for showing up, but I just want to go ahead and do a quick introduction to Dre, and as she's going to talk about hormonal balancing today, and so she's a health coach, and I actually met her in a business course that we both took in January, and so we were in a business course with essentially about 130 or so
Yeah.
other health coaches. It's a course just for health coaches, and we're all building our own businesses. And so that's how we met each other. And I'm going to let her, I definitely want to take an opportunity to get to know you a little bit more, what you're doing in your line of work, and how you even got into the hormonal side of things, too. So, yeah, just
Totally.
share a little bit of where you're coming from, and so we can just get a chance to get to know you.
Awesome. So my name's Jeray Pearson, and I'm a health and wellness coach. I'm also, I do some life transformation strategy work and mindset work with people. But the reason that I do a lot of hormone health coaching is because in my local business, about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I started a local studio where we do a lot of fitness and a lot of we did weight loss challenges and things like that. And the majority of my clientele was women 35 to 60 years old. And so my background, going way back when I started college, I'm almost 40 now, and so when I was like 23 I started college. But I was in college for about 7 years, and I was always led in sort of a health way. So I was pre-med, and I did nursing. I also did some business school and stuff, but I always, health was always important to me. But I think, until you get to a point in your life where you have other people that are close to you that are affected in some way, I think you don't realize what an impact nutrition has on your everyday health. And so for me, it was my husband was having his second bout with second autoimmune disease, which we ended up essentially curing through nutrition. And so because I'm so education minded, I just really wanted to know everything about nutrition. And so when I started my studio, it was actually because I had a big journey myself, and I had lost a bunch of weight, and I saw the impact that it had in my life, and I just wanted to share that, with everybody in the world. And at the same time, my husband was going through this stuff with nutrition. And so I just kind of saw the impact that the nutrition had on us. And then during my practice in my studio, I saw it time and time again where people were seriously affected by just the things that they were eating. And to me, it was like, kind of like the holy grail of, oh my gosh, this is like so huge. So I dove just head first into every bit of information that I could find about nutrition. And then the hormone health stuff came naturally, because when you're running fat loss challenges, you realize that sometimes there's really no rhyme or reason to why somebody isn't losing weight. It's not in the numbers or whatever. They're stuck for a long time, or they're struggling for a long time, but they seem to be doing everything right. So it's really discouraging at that point. And until you start really getting into the physiology behind what's happening in our bodies when we're taking so many chemicals and things in our environment and in our diet, it starts to make sense, and you start to really see, like, oh, okay, this is just by what I'm eating, it's affecting this and this hormone. Because I was a chemistry major for so long, and I had done a lot of biology and biochem and things, and I already kind of knew the basics of all of that. It was easy for me to start putting it together. And so that's why for me, like, hormone health is just so huge for women, all women, really. Like, I mean, I don't think I've ever met a client who wasn't in some way, having to repair some sort of hormone damage just from her environment. And it's really amazing to me, because as soon as we start kind of clearing out some of the chemicals out of our body, and we start sort of resetting ourselves, things just start clicking. And it's just amazing. It's internally, our hormones are just so huge. Our hormones impact every single physiological process within our bodies. They're pretty much sending the signals to our organs and to all of our different functions within our bodies. And it's a proven science that chemicals interact with those, that they hinder, or they in some way impact those. So I don't know if you guys want to take a quick pause. Do you guys have any questions that are coming up before I kind of get into the individual hormones? hormones themselves, because that's sort of the way I'm leading myself right now.
Yeah, no, it works. Totally works.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So far.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, feel free to interrupt me if I get going too much, because I love this stuff so much. So, there's, we have, I have my laptop over here for some bullet points and stuff that I'm checking over here too. So, we have a lot of different hormones in our body, and when I'm dealing with weight loss and typical female, whether it's emotions or anything like that, there's a few of them that stand out above the others. And I'll run through just a quick list of some of them and what they do for us, just so we can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about hormones. So the biggest one that we hear about most often with weight loss is insulin. So we know that insulin is produced when we are consuming high amounts of sugar or carbs of any kind. So carbs, when we're talking about carbs, any carbs, meaning bread or grains or whatever, essentially turn to sugar as soon as they hit our saliva. So, so those are all considered sugar when I'm talking about hormone health. So when you have a high quantity, which for me is about 25 grams or more of sugar in one sitting, would spike my insulin, or anyone around my size would probably spike their insulin a little bit. And what that means is, so insulin is there to help us. It's like protecting us from an overload of insulin. And insulin, the one thing that insulin does is it interacts with our growth hormone. So growth hormone and insulin work in tandem, and you can only be receiving one or the other on your receptors. So growth hormone is what is a good hormone as far as lean muscle goes, if you want to build lean muscle up, or which for losing, if you're boosting your metabolism because you want to lose weight, we all know that we're trying to put on some lean muscle because we're going to burn more calories every day when we do that. Well, without growth hormone being able to bind to those receptors, we can't do that. So when we have an insulin spike, the insulin actually takes precedence over growth hormone. So what that means is you might have just had a workout, which makes you produce produce growth hormone when you're having a workout. So I'm just going to pause for just a second. So when you're having a workout and you're sort of having your afterburn on your workout and everything, your body's pumping out growth hormone. So you're starting to build some lean muscle mass and you're starting to burn more calories. And then you go and eat a burger because you're like, oh, I deserve this. I just worked out hard, whatever. And so what's that going to do? You're going to pump up your insulin. Your insulin's going to take over those receptors from your growth hormone, and you just hindered the progress you made in your growth of lean muscle mass. So there's, when you start realizing how these things work, it really helps you along your journey. So that's insulin and growth hormone that I'm talking about. Growth hormone, also when we sleep, we release growth hormone. And so that's why another reason it's really important to get, good ample amounts of sleep at night. Because if you're not getting your sleep at night and then you're not exercising as well, it's really hard for you to build any sort of muscle and to keep your metabolism up where you're burning calories like you want to be. So let's talk a little bit about cortisol. So cortisol is it's our fight or flight savior, essentially. So when you're under stress, stress means physical stress, emotional stress, any kind of stress that's on your body, that your body feels. So any type of negative energy that is being taken on, as well as over exercising and not taking breaks when you're exercising to recover and things like that. So when you're under stress, and especially continual stress, your body pumps out cortisol to mitigate that. It's like calming your heart down so your heart doesn't pound out of your chest when you're anxious or you're nervous or whatever. So it'll release cortisol. Well, cortisol is really beneficial for stress, but it also makes us hold on to our belly fat. So people who are typically have stressful careers or who don't have a lot of downtime, like self-care time, or they don't have mitigation skills, no meditation, no breathing techniques, anything like that. Those people typically hold their belly fat a lot more. So a lot of the times I can work with somebody for 3 or 4 or 5 months and not see very much progress. And it's when we get to that point with the mental work where we're starting to, you know, build up our confidence and we're starting to go through a lot of the internal work where the fat starts coming off. And it's, you know, it seems almost counterintuitive, like when you start feeling better, then you lose weight, you know, like it doesn't make sense. It seems like, to me, it seems a little backwards, like we give us a little break here. But it's totally how it works. It's like you sort of start realizing your stressors and realizing the things that are happening to you, and starting to de-stress yourself a little bit. And then, you know, sometimes then the belly fat starts coming off a little bit more. So if belly fat is something that you struggle with, then I would definitely start really taking a look at your stress levels. And nutrition, when you're eating a lot of chemical-ridden processed foods, that's also taxing on your body. So we know there's things like, you know, dairy is an inflammatory food. So people who have really high amounts of dairy in their body sometimes can release a lot of cortisol because their organs and their arteries are inflamed, which causes stress on your body. So it all works together with that. And this is super, super common. I think with women, you know, almost all of us, I think, have an issue with belly fat. You know, I know I have an issue with belly fat. So, all right. So we've also, thyroid stimulating hormone is also another one. So sometimes we can, if our thyroid over time, if we're not releasing the proper thyroid hormones over time, what will end up happening is we can end up with some thyroid problems, like either hypo or hyperthyroidism. So if you've heard anything about that, then that is why. Let's see here. So there's also mood hormones. So like the serotonin, the endorphins, all of the like happy hormones, those should also be taken into account as well, because any chemicals that we are intaking are in turn affecting our moods as well. So whether it's depression or anxiety or any of those things, those are affected by our nutrition as well. So those are, let's see here.
So what did you say?
Hormones,
What did you say about hyper and hyper? What were you saying about
thyroidism? So some thyroid problems are caused from our thyroid hormone being out of whack over a period of time, was what I was talking about. And that's really just, that's kind of the premise of it all is I in this, I don't really have time to get into how each food or chemical that's in processed food affects each hormone. But, just know that any chemicals that we're ingesting is going to affect a multitude of these, and it's going to be different for everybody depending on your body physiology. So, but yeah, so then there's the sex hormones in women. I'm just going to touch on real briefly. All women, mid-20s, your hormone levels, your estrogen, progesterone levels start decreasing. And so over time, those are something that can cause issues with weight, with the regularity of our periods and menstrual cycle, things like that. And so when some of those get off, sometimes that can be something where you can just go and get your hormones tested at a physician, and they can give you some suggestions on how to regulate those without it being just, pulling your hair out. And those aren't super expensive tests. Almost any doctor or naturopath will run a panel of tests on your hormones for relatively, and a lot of insurances cover those now as well. So I recommend that. I just don't personally recommend any synthetic hormones. So I would always opt, if you do end up going to a doctor and getting checked out, ask them about your options on your bioidentical hormones as opposed to your synthetic hormones, because bioidentical hormones are actual hormones, whereas the synthetic hormones are just affecting the symptoms of everything more. It's not necessarily getting to the root of the issue. They're just sort of, and so for me, You know, there's some, and also back to good old Suzanne Summers. You know, she's been preaching the bioidentical hormones forever. And if you ever want to pick up one of her books, she goes into a lot of depth on the sex hormones and the different hormones and bioidentical hormones, and how she personally, in her books, she believes that without bioidentical hormones after the age of like 35, that nobody can get completely rid of the belly fat and keep it off without like severely struggling. And I can attest to that. It's definitely a challenge to keep yourself below like 25% body fat if you're over 35. So let's see here. All right, so now I'm going to sort of shift into nutrition a little bit, into how we eat for hormone health. Which is, this is, it's really basic, because like I kind of already touched on a lot of this. If you can just clean up what you're eating and get as close to the ground as you can with what you're eating, and you know, stick to your meats, stick to your veggies and your fruits, and as organic and non-GMO as possible, so that they're you know, as pure as they can be. That is the best way to detox and come back from any sort of hormonal damage. So it's not a secret pill or any sort of supplements that somebody's going to try to sell you or anything. It is literally just getting back to the basics on what you're eating and trying and simplifying the whole process. You know, trying to simplify your meals, knowing you don't need 7 courses to have a healthy meal. You know, that you can just, I've got these veggies on hand, I've got these meat on hand, let's see how I can make these work in a meal. You know, it's really, that's all that it is. And that's how I coach now for hormone health. People always ask me, so what do you recommend that I take to detox? You know, and I recommend that you take real phytochemicals from plants, because what that's going to do on a cellular level is it's going to force the toxins out of your cells. If you can bombard the cells within your body with as much nutrients and antioxidants as possible, you're going to be, you know, as healthy as you can be. Gosh, I could go off on antioxidants and free radicals all day too. So the science in me is like, bing, 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 bing. All right, so let me get to this. And so let me see here. There is, when you're eating for hormone health, it's not low carb. Like, it's not, you know, no grains and everything. It's different. It's clean. So I am not a, you know, low, you know, of course, when people are on a fat loss track, I'll put them on a certain plan and, you know, set up their macros in a specific way and everything. But hormone health is really kind of balanced. You know, it's balancing it all out and realizing that, you know, some grains are going to be really good for you, you know, especially whole grains that are that you're getting a lot of different vitamins from, meaning,
so some examples.
What's that?
Some examples. So
like if you can mix up the grains a little bit, you know, have one night have some quinoa, and then the next night have some brown rice. And, you know, and try to just sort of vary your grains. You're going to be increasing your vitamins from grains. And grains, you know, grains aren't bad. They're just, we just have to be careful that we're not making, that's not the main staple in our diet. And, you know, when we think about how, where our current diets came from, it came from our parents and then their parents. And that is, you know, the reason in the 1920s, our diets really got off track with the depression, because what is the least expensive thing you can have? You know, it's grains and, you know, some starches. And so we've kind of stuck with that, where we feel like our plate needs to be really heavy on the starches. And that's where that came from. It came from that, you know, what can we fill our plate up with enough calories to get us through without breaking the bank? And so it is a little bit outdated. And so now we need to think about the vegetables as being our main carbohydrates, and then having the grains as sort of a supplement to our diet. So let me see here. Let me get to this. I keep chatting, and I can't get to what I'm trying to look at. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing. So like I mentioned, dairy isn't the best for hormone health. You know, I cut milk out. I was a big milk drinker for a long, long time. I had, you wouldn't even believe this, but I had a 32-ounce mug from like A&W or whatever that I kept in the freezer, and every night I drank that with dinner, every single night until I was in my mid-20s. And, you know, and I look back on this stuff now and I'm like, I can't even believe that I did this stuff. But you know, so I made a compromise because I was like, I really like cheese and I really like butter sometimes, you know. And so at that time I was like, okay, I'll cut out all milk and I'll stick to that stuff. And now over time, you know, I've gradually cut a lot of that stuff out as well. And I'm not particular to the point where I'm like, what was that cooked in? If it has any butter, don't get it to me. You know, like I'm never like that with my personal nutrition. But I just know that, you know, if I can cut it down as much as I can. I barely do cheese anymore, which is a miracle for me. Like I just have became less and less and less to where now I don't really miss it as much. But that one was a really hard one for me. So, and then soy is also one that is known to interfere with our sex hormones, especially. And so I don't do soy. So that's something that I don't, when I'm coaching women, I recommend that they just avoid the soy altogether. So, we've also got to, let's see here. When we're talking about meats, processed meats is going to be bad. So anything that's got nitrates in it, you know, obviously nitrates, MSG, any of the obvious chemicals, we're definitely going to want to avoid at all costs if possible. So that one is, let's see here. Here we go. So soy, and then so the things that you do want are healthy fats is something that most people are low on, and they're really good for our hormones. So any of the healthy fats such as like hemp seed or flaxseed, olive oil, what else we got? Avocados and avocado oil, any of that stuff. I recommend that everybody that you either Google or, my clients can get from me a list of like good healthy fats, just that you can start sort of putting in your house as staples and just start adding them to things. Coconut oil is one of my biggest things that I use a lot, even on my skin and stuff sometimes. But if you can do that, if you can start just increasing those. I just went to the doctor last week, had my got my blood work back, and I hadn't been to the doctor in quite a while. I wouldn't even tell you how long, but for too long. And I went in, and he said my cholesterol was ideal. And I was, he said my good fats were good, and my bad cholesterol was low. And for being almost 40 years old, like, I was pretty excited with that. And so, and I completely believe that it's because I'm good with my fats. I don't do bad fats. I mean, I barely ever do, like a canola oil or a vegetable oil, and they're not bad fats. We can handle those, and we are supposed to have some omega-6s and some omega-3s, and we're just supposed to balance those out. But in the typical American diet, we're really high in bad fats. It's just how everything seems to be fried in it, cooked with it, and everything else, because corn is cheap and most of it comes from corn. So so if you can increase your good fats, that's going to help you a lot. Nuts and seeds is also something that is good for vitamins and minerals. So especially, the smaller seeds that we don't get very much. So I've been cooking a lot more with like pine nuts and sunflower seeds. I have been buying like the already whole, shucked, hulled, whatever you call it, with no salt. And then I can add those to salads on the top of my salads and stuff. And so that's one way that I do it. And then also, with hormone health, I typically tell people to just limit the amount of beans that you intake. So beans aren't bad, but with our gut health, and they kind of go hand in hand, our hormone health and our gut health, beans can be a little bit trying on our gut health, especially if you're just now starting some sort of a detox reset. Usually I would cut those out for a while, at least to just clear out your gut and just sort of detox yourself from those, because they're sort of similar. They do sort of the similar thing as gluten, where they sit in your intestines for quite a while and can collect the bad bacteria for a while, and can give you stomach cramping and keep you stopped up and stuff. So we don't want to do that. Let's see here. So also fish Fish is something that's really good that I think that is kind of underutilized, because it is good. You know, we've got good fats, and it's also a good source of protein, and we get some different vitamins and minerals from fish that we do. Just try and avoid the farm raised. If you can get the fresh caught as much as possible, and non-GMO is also good with that as well. So with the meats, you know, when I say organic, you know, if you can't go clear organic, you know, like chicken, everything's really, you know, with the meats, it's more expensive. And so a lot of people end up avoiding the meats, the organic meats. You can work that by when you're buying beef, do the grass-fed. Grass-fed's going to be a little bit better. When you're buying your eggs, you know, try and get your free range as opposed to just the regular farmed eggs. If you can go organic, like we're lucky here because we have really good prices. They're pretty comparable. I think it's like a dollar difference between the regular eggs to the free range, and then like $1 more to the organic. So it's not like a huge difference, even though we do eat quite a bit of eggs. It's not so much that I don't feel like it's breaking the bank. So so really it's if you can get as many nutrients into your body as possible to start detoxing your cells on a cellular level. It happens really fast. Within like 7 days of a reset, I've seen women lose 7 or 8 pounds. A lot of it is toxins in your intestines, and as well as some water weight, because when you cut down your salt and you're eating clean and all that, you will lose some water weight as well. But they don't tend to lose it back very fast. It's not something that when they stop the reset, they're gaining this weight back. I see this time and time again, that it cleans them out. And if you can just stay somewhat consistent with that after you do a detox or a reset, and sometimes it just takes 7 days. 7 days. I do 30-day, I do 14-day and 30-day resets with my clients, depending on their situation and what they're looking for. But it doesn't take a lot of time, and I think the more that you can just spend on it, if you can buckle down for 7 to 14 days and just really be super clean with everything, then that's going to be good. I should also mention, this is the worst part for most people, is caffeine. Caffeine is one of the things that when you have some adrenal fatigue or some sort of hormonal imbalances going on, caffeine's the first thing usually that we have to take out, at least for a while. And it's because it directly affects so many different things within your body, and it causes you to feel stress, just because it's a stimulant. So it does cause your body to feel stress, and you will be releasing cortisol because of that. And it's just, without taking it completely out, there's not really any way to reset your hormones. So caffeine is a biggie, especially for us women who are doing a million things all the time, and and I'm right there with you. So you
do coffee?
I do. So when I'm doing a reset, I don't do any. I do coffee though. I've cut back so much. Like I used to be a 1 a day at least espresso, and I would make myself like a French press in the day as well. And I'm like down to maybe a French press every other day and an espresso from the coffee stand every couple weeks. So it's definitely not like I used to be. But I I can tell when I do a reset, I get caffeine sensitive again. So it definitely, you don't realize how fast it really takes hold of you, but it does. And so when you're cleaned out consistently for a week to 2 weeks, you naturally will have more energy. And so it's almost like you're hindering yourself, because we tell ourselves we need the caffeine because we're lagging. But what it does is it only raises us for a while. It only lifts us up for so long. And then, and then we crash again, and then we want more caffeine. And just like everything that's, fun in life, we have to rein it in somewhere. So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing one now, right? I feel like
I just finished a 2-week one in my group, just a free 14-day thing in my public group. And then I have an academy starting August 28th that we do a 30-day, we do a 30-day in there. And so, you're good. But yeah, so we're doing them all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great that you're doing a 14-day with your group even.
Yeah, I actually just today finished putting the last tidbits on a 21-day. It's just going to be a regular program I offer now, a 21-day hormone reset and detox that I just finished a couple hours ago. So yeah, it's just something that people need. You know, it's just something that I found that women, that, you know, when you talk about hormones, everybody has something going on. So
Sure.
yeah, definitely needed.
That's awesome. Where can, as I'm just thinking about it, where, like, if anybody watched the recording or anything else, anybody wants to find you, I would love to provide, I'll certainly provide maybe, and can the recordings, can you see the Zoom chats?
I don't
remember.
know how that works, but if we repost it, we could probably put anything in any post.
Yeah, your Facebook group and, you know, even your website or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So if you want to find me, so if you hashtag Well Tribe, you'll find me. So I've been using the hashtag Well Tribe for a few months now, and if you searched that on either Instagram or Facebook, I'd probably come up in a lot of different ways.
Nice.
So I've got a public group that's called, and we're the Well Tribe community, but that one is just under my name, Jeray Pearson CPT, and that's my Facebook page is Jeray Pearson CPT, and then my group is also my public group is Jeray Pearson CPT as well.
So now that you're 14 days out from a kind of a hormonal, you know, detox, tell me what you're feeling. Like, I'd love to know
So, well, within probably 2 days of doing a hormone reset, I feel so much better. Like my clothes, I swear I drop almost a whole size of water weight within a couple days. And then I start feeling like I have a lot more energy. But when I do a hormone reset myself, I really try and bombard myself with as much vegetables as I can. So I usually juice, and I usually do vegetables with every meal, and I'll work in a salad, and I get really vegetable heavy when I do that. And it works for me. But after doing a 2-week one, so I'm still pretty clean. I don't feel like I'm completely off track. And I feel good. I feel really good. I don't know, just a little backstory. I've always had some anxiety and depression, I've battled throughout my life. And I went through that about a month ago for a few weeks, where I know Allison knows about this because I've talked to her about it, but and it was kind of out of the blue. I didn't really expect it, and I didn't have anything really going on to make me that way. I think that doing a hormone reset was what kind of fixed that.
That's awesome.
It was really, really powerful for me. So nutrition is huge. When I get off track with my nutrition, I start feeling like all of the old anxiety stuff coming back in, and I feel a little more irritable, and I feel like don't have the energy, and I just start it just is a snowball effect with me. So it's really important for me. And most of the women that I coach will attest to the same thing. They know that they can feel it as soon as they're off track too. So the hormone reset, if you want to feel good within a couple days, you just start a hormone reset. It makes you not want to slip up at all, because I tell my girls during a hormone reset that we're not going to weigh during the whole time. And it's really tricky because you're so almost excited. You know that it's working because you can see it in yourself, you can feel it in yourself. And so you're kind of like, man, I just want to slip up. And which I have, I've done in a 30-day, I've weighed myself periodically through it just because it's pretty exciting. But if you cannot weigh throughout that time, and I catch myself being like, I don't want to slip up at all because I'm so curious within 14 days what I can do, or within 30 days, what's going to happen when I do get on that scale or whatever, and that one of the girls in my group in 14 days just lost 12 pounds. How does that happen? 12 pounds in 2 weeks, it's just phenomenal. Yeah. And so she was also one of the ones that I said, don't weigh yourself, let's just see what happens. And so it's pretty powerful when that happens, it makes you realize, what's going on in your body. So.
I bet her energy level skyrocketed.
Yeah. She's one of my local clients, and she's been coming to class more. It's definitely motivating.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Courtney, do you have any questions? Just as I'm thinking a good Q&A time. Is there anything that's popped up for you, or you may have questions, or Yeah,
I'm yours, girl.
What were you saying?
I said, I'm yours. What do you got?
Yeah, it's a one-on-one here.
I have y'all muted so people can't hear my dogs eating and drinking in the background.
Parrot. No, girl, I have a parrot, and the whole time I've been like, is she going to start squawking at us? So you're good with the dog.
No, I think that I got it all. And one thing you mentioned at some point, what about, okay, I have two things, I guess. Alcohol and corn.
Okay, good.
Do we need to cut corn out completely? I've read.
No. So the corn I was mentioning was the oil. So because yes, and corn is the most GMO product out there, you know, and so corn oil is typically really huge farms where and it's all GMO corn. So, you know, you definitely want to be somewhat cautious about where you're getting your corn from and what you're eating. But I still eat corn. If nowadays, I mean, you can even find corn tortillas that are made with just corn and lime and are non-GMO. So I don't think anything's bad. I don't think anything that grows in nature is really going to be too bad as long as it's not really changed over the years into something that's not recognizable by our systems. So no, that's fine. And then alcohol, when you're doing a reset, well, anytime you're losing fat, technically you shouldn't be having alcohol. And the reason for that is your body has to process the alcohol, which is a chemical that's hard to process. So for 3 days after you consume alcohol, your body's processing that, which actually takes energy away from your digestive system and your metabolism. So it slows your metabolism. So you're burning less calories. It's not just that you consumed an extra couple hundred calories in the drink. It's that for 3 days after that, you're still processing that out of you. So, you know, yes, that's one of the hardest things for a lot of people. I'm kind of lucky that that's not something I miss too much, but yeah, it's for, and you know, think about the stress that alcohol also puts on your system. So the stress from drinking alcohol is also releasing cortisol, which is keeping your belly fat. So not worth it to me. I would find another stress relief from the drinking or a social thing. But it's unfortunately, there's no way around that one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good questions. Those are good questions.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Courtney's crying.
Those are the questions that I hate answering the most: the caffeine and the alcohol.
Yeah, you just said no caffeine, no alcohol. No, I'm good.
I know. Sorry.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a good informative. You know, it's good to kind of. It is. I think if you're doing any kind of detox, you gotta be, you know. And I'm gonna be honest. Like even when I'm in a place where I'm starting to work with ladies. You guys may not be in a place yet where you're ready for that. And, you know, there might be a time where I've actually worked with someone in my beta group in the spring, and she was a little farther along in her journey and felt very fine with doing a particular detox, a cleanse or whatever, more of a cleanse. But some of the other ladies weren't in that place. And so she kind of went for the personal decision with that. So, you know, so I want to also put that out there. You know, maybe if someone's not in that place yet where you're ready for that, that's okay too. We may need to get people in a position where we are with food and being okay with how we are emotionally on that as well. So my first detox, I went for a 10-day, and it was pretty extensive, and I actually lasted 3 of the 10. And that was years ago. It's probably 10 at this point. And so I kind of, you know, my next one after that I did several years later, and I went with a 3-day, and it was a little gentle, and it helped give me confidence around those areas. And so I guess I would be like, you know, and I'm hoping I don't mess up anything you're saying, but I'm more just, more just saying, you know, I don't want any, you know, you ladies, as we're working through like a relationship around our food and just relationships on building some momentum in some of these areas that you feel like, hey, you may not be ready for that. That's okay. You know, I also want to give you that, and that's
well. And I should probably say that about myself as well. So I lost 80 pounds, and during the time that I was losing my weight, it was baby steps the whole time. I did not, I think it's so much harder to stay consistent with anything when you're trying to do everything at once and make it all perfect. So we have to realize that in the beginning, you're learning like hundreds or thousands of new skills all at one time, and that's not realistic for a human brain to even manage. So we have to give ourselves a little bit of leeway and just say, hey, we can only do so much at a time, and be practical with our goals, and just know that if we can get out and just start doing some of it, then that's a step in the right direction, and that will absolutely get you to your goal. So yeah, definitely, a hormone reset is and I don't typically, the reason that I do this with women is because women get stuck and they need something else. But I don't believe in extreme diets at all. And I don't consider this extreme, I guess, in the regard that it's the way that we should eat normally. But it is extreme for people who aren't familiar with this. So, so if it's a new skill, yeah, you definitely want to take your time and ease into it, and don't go out and cut out all of your alcohol today, and all of your caffeine, and all of your dairy, and all of your gluten, and that's not realistic. So I'm just telling you, ideally, this is what we would do.
Got it.
For sure. Well, this is awesome. Anything else? Any other questions? I guess, Courtney, and all before we head out. And I'm glad, super informative. I'm so glad you've been able to share this info, and I look forward to kind of not only passing it on to a couple other ladies in our group, but even being able to pass it on for the future groups that I do have. I'm already starting to get ladies in, even in September, and I haven't even mentioned it, but I'm already having ladies starting to sign up. So I feel like it's going to be. So I'm excited about sharing this.
Awesome, yeah, that'll be great.
Anything else before
we? Here to cut these things out, like dairy and gluten, and you hear this all the time that you should cut it out. But thank you for explaining why. Like, that's interesting to know what it's actually doing.
Well, it might help. My husband, he had alopecia first, which was where you lose your hair in like circular patterns.
My bulldog has it.
Okay, yeah. So he had that first in our early 20s. And then in our late 20s, he got psoriasis. And over about a year, head to toe, it covered him. And we knew something was not right. And the doctors were, cortisone creams, light treatments, and I just was like, no, there's a reason for this. I don't want to just treat it. I want to get to the root of the issue. So we went to a naturopath, and the naturopath took him off gluten and dairy. He looked at our diet, and he said, it looks like you're a little heavy in these two, and these are two really common allergens. So let's take those out and see what happens. And I'm not kidding you, within 3 days, you could see the skin on his hands popping through, and it was just going away. It was nuts. And so he was like, he's like, I'm good. I don't need that stuff. And he, it was for 8 months, it took him to get rid of it completely. But yeah. And so now he occasionally, if someone has birthday cake, he might have a couple bites, but he's pretty much gluten-free and dairy-free for the most part. And he just, because when it's obvious like that, when you're having an obvious outbreak of some sort, it's a little easier to do. But yeah, so that's huge. And so I, with gluten and dairy, I've had so many clients that those were issues with them. And, when we removed those, it took so much of the struggle out of it, and have seen people cured by, headaches, migraine headaches, dairy, taking out sugar and dairy, who would think, but it's just amazing.
Right.
So.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good day, you guys.
Yep, you too. Bye.
Bye.